New on the Creation Club is Gunners vs. Minutemen. Join the fight to retake Quincy alongside the Minutemen. Features 3 unique power armor paint variants for both the Minutemen and the Gunner factions. Created by Skibada. Quest by Chris Takahashi. Gunners vs. Minutemen is selling for 600 credits. But is it worth it? Let's find out. Upon arrival in the Commonwealth, we begin the quest, War Paint. Investigate the church west of Hyde Park. Traveling southwest of Hyde Park, sure enough, we find an abandoned church, but it appears to be empty. But heading upstairs, we find a body lying next to an explosives crate. It's the corpse of Nunez, and he's dressed in Minuteman garb. Next to his body is a short automatic laser musket, and it's a legendary item. This is an exceedingly rare item. The only other one I've ever gotten was rewarded by Sturgis to my Minuteman character after completing the game by siding with the Minutemen. On the ground next to the body is Nunez's note. Ever since Quincy, a handful of us have been talking in secret, gathering supplies and getting ready for war. The plan is to storm into the city and raise our flag up high for all to see. One last star-spangled screw you to the Gunners and their crew. Captain Mercer says the time to strike is now. I told him I was on my way, but if he saw an opening, not to wait up. When I get there, I've got a special surprise cooked up for those jerks. A T-51 power armor set I stole from a gunner camp. I've got it stashed away in a garage east of Hyde Park. The problem is it's got a gunner paint job. So to avoid friendly fire, I asked our resident painter Alex to give it our colors. While she's lathering it up, I'm gonna stop by the church and pick up my personal weapons cache. Maybe on the way, I'll ask God if he'd be so kind as not to screw us this time. So wait a minute, Preston told us that he was the last of the Minutemen. But after Quincy, some of the Minutemen who retreated banded together to stage a counterstrike? Why didn't they contact Preston? How long have they been hiding out, waiting for their opportunity? Will they recognize the sole survivor as General? This brings up a lot of questions. To get some answers, we need to find this garage that we read about on the note to see if we can find his painter, Alex. It's not far away. A short walk northeast of this church, we find the garage on the outskirts of Hyde Park. As we approach, we see a suit of power armor and a power armor workstation and a corpse on the ground. Another Minuteman. On her body is Alexandra Trumbull's note, as well as Trumbull's power armor designs. Reading the note first, things would be a lot easier if John Trumbull was a lowly cobbler and not the doggone painter of the Revolution. There's a lot of pressure that comes with the name, I need more jet. And mentats. Why aren't there jet tats? Why isn't that a thing? And now Nunez wants me to repaint this war machine with our colors before they try and take back Quincy. I told him that's not how artists work, but he threatened to tell Mercer about the chems and the antler holes I poked in his favorite hat, so work I shall. But really, I just hope everyone comes back safe. Trumbull or not, I'm not ready to paint another death scene. Alex here is referring to John Trumbull, an American artist and Revolutionary War veteran who painted a number of historical paintings about the Revolutionary War, including the famous signing of the Declaration of Independence. Mercer, whom we read about in this note, is a reference to General Hugh Mercer. He was a brigadier general in the Continental Army and died during the Battle of Princeton, a battle that was commemorated in a painting by John Trumbull, which cemented his legacy as a patriot of the American Revolution. Turning around, we find the body of a gunner leaning against the opposite wall. On his corpse is the gunner scout's note. I've tracked the stolen power armor to a warehouse east of Hyde Park. The area is poorly guarded, with only one of the musket-wielding rubes stationed inside. While I can't be certain from this distance, she seems to be making modifications to the armor's exterior. I should eliminate her before the simpleton damages the equipment any further. Well, it looks like the simpleton was much more formidable than he anticipated. Here they both lie dead. And we find the stolen power armor in the nearby power armor repair station. and it's covered with gunner insignia. On the wall, we find a Minuteman flag and a mounted radstag head. There's the Minuteman hat with the holes poked in it that we read about, and the other head's wearing glasses. In the lockers, we find Mentats and Jet, exactly what Alex needed to work on these paint schemes. And all over the place, we find a ton of paint. This is useful as we can scrap it for oil so that we can complete the next part of the quest, which is to paint this power armor. By looting Trumbull's power armor designs, we unlock 3 new Minuteman-themed power armor designs that we can access from the workbench. We'll go over them in greater detail later. For now, we just need to pick one and paint each piece of this set. We do have to paint each piece. I tried painting only one piece, and I wasn't able to progress with the quest. Once the full suit of power armor is painted, we then have to hop in. And now, we join the battle for Quincy. We don't have to do the battle in this power armor. At this point, we can hop out of it, but I chose to stay in mine. Quincy is close to this location. We can walk there by heading east, and our quest log updates long before we even reach the town. The battle commences while on the outskirts of Quincy Quarry. We have to kill the gunner commander. As we approach Quincy, we hear the sounds of battle. Racing into Quincy, we can attack. We see that Minutemen are joining us in the attack. The gunner commander we need to kill is on the nearby rooftops. As I've claimed every settlement for the Minutemen, I chose to take him out with some Minuteman artillery. With the commander dead, we can clear the rest of the gunners in Quincy. So even without Nunez and Trumbull, Captain Mercer advanced on Quincy with his Minuteman forces. And it's lucky then that the general of the Minutemen happened along when we did. However, we didn't arrive soon enough to save the life of Captain Mercer himself. We find his corpse on the corner of a nearby roof. On his body, we find Captain Mercer's note and a Minuteman flag. Reading the note, I warned the men it was a suicide mission, but it seems to be a consensus among the group that none of us care. The gunners took everything from us in Quincy. Our friends, our family, our home. But when you have nothing left, you also have nothing to lose. And if we can hold Quincy for just a moment and plant our flag in the town square, that'll be enough to show the whole Commonwealth that we're still here. Ezra, my old friend, I'll see you soon. Ezra was Colonel Ezra Hollis of the Minutemen. And we learned about him by talking with Preston Garvey and by reading the terminal entries here at Quincy, all of which I covered in my video on Quincy that you can watch here. In short, the Minutemen didn't actually live here, contrary to what Captain Mercer says in this note. Instead, the Minutemen were called here by the Longs, Sturges, and the people who did live here when they received word of an impending attack by the gunners. Colonel Ezra Hollis was killed by a traitor, Clint, who abandoned the Minutemen and joined the Gunners, leading to the fall of Quincy. We see the shadow of a flag on the wall of the church below us. Turning around, there it is. Clambering to the rooftop, we find a flag on the corner of the roof, and it's flying the Gunner logo. We can take it down and hoist the Minuteman flag. And with that, we complete the quest War Paint, and we retake Quincy for the Minutemen. After the battle, the surviving Minutemen wander around the town. We can talk to a few of them. They don't say much.
Excuse me.
We can take it from here, General. Thank you, General.
Hey, thanks for your help.
And sadly, Preston has nothing to say about taking Quincy back. Some of these Minutemen are looking for new homes, and we can send them to any settlement that we want. However, not all of them are. Of the surviving Minutemen, I was only able to send 3 back to my settlements as settlers. Now, after this battle, I was curious about a few things. First, I wanted to know whether or not we take Quincy permanently for the Minutemen, or if the Gunners ever come back. And so I fast-traveled to the Nakano residence, and there I waited for many days. 27 days to be exact. Every now and then I would inspect my map, but the marker always said cleared. But at some point between the 21st and 27th day, the ruins of Quincy became no longer cleared. Fast traveling back, we find Gunners have repopulated Quincy. We now have to take it back again. However, we still see the Minuteman flag flying in the distance. And we are joined by the Minutemen who stayed behind. So it's essentially a repeat of the battle we just had. Second, I wanted to make sure that the creation didn't interfere with the named Gunners that are here upon our first visit. So I did this quest with a character who had never been to Quincy before, and sure enough, while the Gunners are fighting the Minutemen, we find Clint, Baker, and Tessa exactly where they were before this creation was installed. So thankfully it doesn't interfere with the characters we already find here. Back in our settlement, we can explore all of the new power armor paint schemes. We walk away with 6 new paint schemes. 3 Minutemen, and 3 Gunner paint schemes for the T-45, the T-51, the T-60, and the XO-1. First is the Minutemen Armored Cavalry paint scheme, which increases charisma with all pieces painted. This gorgeous paint scheme combines gray, dark blue, and yellow with a bunch of military chevrons and the Minuteman logo. We find artistic flourishes all over the armor, crossing sabers on the pauldrons, and written on the chest plate are the words, "Here comes the cavalry." Next is the Minuteman Patriot paint scheme, which also increases charisma with all pieces painted. It's a very different paint scheme, but equally authentically Minuteman. The Patriot scheme combines the stars and stripes of the pre-war flag. It has a base color of dark blue, with red and white stripes on the pauldrons and stars scattered across the rest of the armor. On the chest piece, we find the phrase, "For the people, by the people," painted in dark red. The color of this paint is an unfortunate choice as it makes it hard to read against the dark blue background. Still, it's a handsome paint scheme. Finally, there's the Minutemen Revolutionary paint scheme. And holy cow, I think this may be my favorite of the three. This is a light gray and burgundy paint scheme, covered in golden military rope embellishments. The gunner paint schemes are equally impressive. First, there's the gunner captain paint scheme, and all of these increase strength with all pieces painted. The gunner captain paint scheme combines flames, barbed wire, and skulls in a variety of ways against a dark green background. What's really cool is the barbed wire is made from bullets, and painted on the back of the helmet are the words, "I see you," with two glowing red eyes made with bullseyes. Then there's the Gunner Corporal paint scheme. This is a dark green and brown paint scheme. It's a little less elaborate, a bit more restrained. It has a more militaristic feel, with chevrons on the pauldrons, but it still retains its gunner flair, with a skull on the chest plate and the words, "Time to die." We also find tick marks on the arms, which appear to be kills. 13 Deathclaw kills, and only 7 human kills. Finally, there's the Gunner Sergeant paint. This is a light gray and light brown paint scheme, which combines the best of the previous two. We have lots of military chevrons, barbed wire on the legs, tick marks on the arms, and skulls and bullets aplenty. On the back of the helmet reads, "Don't rejoice, I'll be back for you." And that's it. I'm really pleased with the power armor paint schemes. All 6 of them are exceptionally high quality and chock full of character. As the creation is going for 600 credits, even if we were to ignore the quest, we'd be paying about $1 per skin. Twice what we would pay for one Pip-Boy skin. As much as I absolutely love these power armor skins, I was more excited to tackle the quest. For as long as I've been playing Fallout 4, I've wanted the Minutemen to be able to retake Quincy. This has been a romantic idea, one of those things that I always felt should have been something we could have done in the base game. I was disappointed when I discovered after wiping out all the gunners in Quincy that nobody, Preston Garvey, or anyone at the castle had anything to say on it. And so I was excited that we were getting this creation. However, I walk away a bit disappointed. The quest essentially just puts a quest marker over the town of Quincy and tells us to go there and kill gunners. They send us a few Minutemen reinforcements, but nothing that changes the outcome of the battle. I feel like the battle for Quincy could have been so much more interesting. You'll forgive me for fantasizing here, but this is how I imagined the quest would play out. We would arrive at Quincy and there would be a series of objectives. Maybe we had to go detonate a gunner munitions stockpile. Maybe we had to go sabotage some of their vertibirds. Maybe we had to disrupt communications between the gunners at Quincy and their headquarters somewhere else. Instead, we just have to kill one gunner, which is not that interesting. I really wanted this battle for Quincy to feel epic, for the gunners to feel like they had been deeply entrenched in Quincy, and we had to root them out with a stick. Instead, it just felt like any other raider-inhabited place, where we kill the guys shooting at us and kill the boss. It just wasn't as compelling as I wanted it to be. Additionally, a big thing missing from this quest is choice. Wouldn't it have been cool if we could choose to support the Minutemen or optionally report what we know to the gunners and stand with them defending Quincy against a Minuteman onslaught? Now, the marketing for this quest gives us no hint that that's a possibility. It flat out says, we will side with the Minutemen, so I didn't go into this expecting an option to side with the gunners, but having that kind of player choice would have made this a much more fleshed out encounter. Now, there are many more complicated ways this quest could have gone that would have been wonderful. Maybe the level of the forces that we get to help us retake Quincy scale with how advanced we are in the Minutemen questline. If we haven't saved Preston yet, maybe we only get 1 or 2 guys. If we have saved Preston, maybe we get a bunch of guys. If we've retaken the castle, maybe then we get guys that help us in power armor. If we beat the game by siding with the Minutemen, then we've got soldiers dropping from vertibirds. It would have been great to see Ronnie Shaw there, to have Preston make his own cameo, but I can't understand why they didn't go that complicated. New dialogue to record, tinkering with companions and quest NPCs, which alone can be pretty dangerous, and running the risk of causing some players who haven't advanced far with the Minutemen to walk away feeling like they didn't get much help from the Minutemen when retaking Quincy. I get all of that. But I do think they really could have made the flow of this battle much more interesting, aside from just kill this one guy. They could have at least put some other objectives in Quincy to take care of during this fight. That alone would have made it a little bit more interesting to me. I also raise an eyebrow concerning the story itself because it alters what we already know about what happened between the Minutemen at Quincy. Without this creation installed, the story of Quincy is that the people of Quincy called for help from the Minutemen. Only a few people arrived due to Minuteman infighting. They were betrayed. The gunners killed everyone there and scattered the rest out into the wastes. Only a handful of Minutemen fled with Preston Garvey and the Quincy survivors towards Concord, and they all died along the way except Preston, leaving Preston Garvey the only person alive who still calls himself a Minuteman by the time we find him in the game. And it was because Preston was the last Minuteman that he could make us a general. There was no one left to contradict him, to oppose his election of the sole survivor as General of the Minutemen. But this creation changes all of that. Now we know that there were pockets of Minutemen who not only survived Quincy, but organized, even had officers. Captain Mercer. Also, Captain Mercer described Quincy as his home, but according to the original story, the Minutemen only arrived at Quincy because Mama Murphy had a vision that the Gunners were going to attack. The Minutemen didn't live in Quincy. I suppose we could argue that some of the Minutemen who were part of this volunteer militia could have had roots in Quincy and might have lived there at some point. So a little bit of a confusion there in the lore. Now, the fact that the Gunners just respawn over time in Quincy, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. On one hand, we don't want to lose one of the biggest spawn points for Gunners in the game to disappear. Players may need Quincy to stay more or less the way it is so that they can come back later to further level their character or get more gear for their settlements. So the Gunners at Quincy respawning, even after we take it for the Minutemen, makes sense from that perspective. But from a story perspective, it's very dissatisfying, because we kill the Gunners and we raise the Minuteman flag, but then we can't do anything to Quincy. We can't defend it, we can't set up fortifications, it never becomes a settlement. We can't ensure that the Gunners can never take Quincy again. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could rebuild it and then send Mama Murphy, the Longs, and Sturges back after we defend it? Ultimately, I think that this is just a really hard location for the Creation Club to have done it justice. There are so many cool ways this battle could have gone that I think it's inevitable that the creation disappoints some people. That said, I want to fully admit my bias here because I love the Minutemen. From the very beginning of the game, they've been my favorite faction. Perhaps I just expect too much, and maybe I'm letting that color my perceptions. I'm happy to admit that, but ultimately I walk away feeling like this just wasn't enough. That said, the skins are amazing. They're great. Everything about them is wonderful. So even if you just aren't thrilled with the way they resolved this battle at Quincy, it's still a great one to nab for the skins. But those are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you've got to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I publish many Fallout videos each and every week here on my channel, so if you don't want to miss my next episode, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you have and you still feel like you're missing out on YouTube notifications, consider following me on Twitter at Oxhorn. I update Twitter manually with every new piece of content that I publish. I've got a brand new shirt in the shop. Enclave. Boost your support for the Enclave as a faction and everything they stand for with this brand new design that comes on shirts in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes and in a wide array of colors. You can find it on other products as well, like smartphone cases, pillows, posters, mugs, stickers, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more brand new videos.